Hello, everybody. This is Stan Scott with Foggy Bottom Line Media, and I wanted to do a quick spot report on the shutdown, government shutdown, which started on October 1st when Congress failed to pass a continuing resolution, or CR, to continue funding government services, at least temporarily, after the end of the fiscal year. This causes some hardship. A lot of government services stop. A lot of government workers are furloughed. And they don't necessarily get a free vacation, although some will get the back pay. Essential services continue, like the military, the FBI, ICE, apparently. But it does cause hardship for some folks, and you can imagine that both sides are going to want to blame the other. Republicans are going to blame Democrats. Democrats are going to blame Republicans. I would argue that the Republicans are solely to blame, if only because they could end this anytime. If they wanted to end this shutdown and pass a CR, they could do that right now, today, whenever they feel like doing it. They don't, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to bring up some social media posts that I see from the right blaming Democrats for the shutdown, including a comment on a LinkedIn post suggesting that Democrats forced a shutdown because they want to cut federal funding for rural hospitals and redirect that toward healthcare for non-citizens. Now, you can see the comment on the screen, and if this LinkedIn account is genuine, you have to respect this guy's background. But if he really believes this is true, he pays little attention to how government works, and even less to politics. This is easily the most egregious disinformation, if not outright lie, I've seen on LinkedIn, and that's a high bar. Yes, Republicans want you to blame Democrats for their failure to pass a CR and the resulting shutdown. They also want you to think Democrats did this because the CR does not include money for illegal immigrant health care. And that's because this is really the only message the Republicans have besides trans issues, is that Democrats are too soft on illegal immigrants. But that's not what happened. Democrats refused to pass a cloture resolution, and I'll get to that in a minute, that would allow a vote on the CR because the big, beautiful bill cuts funding for Affordable Care Act subsidies and Medicaid. These cuts mean that regular people like you and me, your healthcare costs, if you're on the Affordable Care Act platform, that's how you get your health insurance, your health insurance costs will go up at the end of this year if something doesn't change. Democrats wanted this funding restored so that working Americans who get health care through the ACA won't see those increase. They won't see them go up to unsustainable levels. They also want to protect poor Americans who are mostly seniors in nursing homes and children in poor families or with disabilities who would lose coverage. Cuts to Medicaid have already caused rural hospitals and clinics to close because it's in the big, beautiful bill that was passed earlier this year. And healthcare companies, I've seen this, they plan for it. Democrats want to stop this, and that's why they refuse to vote for the cloture rule. It's not because they want to pay for immigrant health care. Now, if Republicans agree to restore this funding, Democrats would vote for cloture in the filibuster and allow passage of the CR in the Senate. Republicans in the House have already passed it. Now, to explain this fully, I got to talk a little bit about a filibuster, which is a complicated Senate rule that allows 41 senators to block legislation, including budget votes, simply by filing that intent. Now, once upon a time, a senator had to hold the floor to continue a filibuster. They had to actually stand on the floor and talk. And you've probably read in your history book stories of senators reading the phone book just to fill time, because as long as they held the floor, you couldn't break a filibuster. But now they just got lazy and they made it easier for themselves by changing the rules. Today, all they have to do is announce that they intend to filibuster, and that puts everything off the table until 60 senators vote for cloture, which would end the filibuster. So the key thing to know about the filibuster, however, besides this 60 vote requirement, is that the Constitution does not require it, nor does federal law. It's a simple Senate rule, which 51 senators could change at any time. It was originally designed, and it sounds like a good idea, to force compromise and create the conditions for passage of legislation that 60 senators could support, which means most of the time you'd have to get at least a few people on the other side to agree. The idea is to stop extremist legislation. And it worked very well during the civil rights era, when segregationists used it to block voting rights and equal rights legislation that they saw as extremist. And it's having that effect today when budget hawks want to cut social infrastructure spending, and Democrats think that's extremist and they want to put a stop to it. In any event, what all this means is if Republicans who hold a 51-49 majority in the Senate wish to end the shutdown, they could make this happen right now, today, simply by changing the rules so that budget or continuing resolution votes cannot be blocked in this way. They've already done this. They've already ended the filibuster for other reasons, for other votes. For example, cabinet and court nominations. When they couldn't get those through over the objections of Democrats, they couldn't break filibusters on those. They simply ended the filibuster rule for those votes. So this would not set a new precedent. Why they don't's a good question. It could be that conservatives just hate government so much that closing it just looks like good policy to them, except for ICE in the military, I guess. Perhaps they want to use the shutdown to achieve other goals, such as making workforce cuts DOJ didn't get to before they end it. Some have speculated that if they brought Congress back to Washington to vote on the shutdown, they'd have to seat Adelita Grijalva, a Democrat who just won a special election in Arizona. Now, if that happened, if she's seated, then she would create a majority in support of passing the Epstein files or releasing the Epstein files. The point here is, and this is what I can't say often enough, is that if Republicans wanted to end this shutdown, they could do so right now, today. Right now. All they have to do is convene the Senate. 51 Republican senators vote for changing the rule to get rid of the filibuster. If they only have 50 because Ron Paul won't agree, then J.D. Vance breaks the tie. And they pass a budget, they pass a continuing resolution, and they pass any budget they want. They don't do this. I think they don't do this because they don't want to be blamed for what's in this bill. They don't want to be blamed for these cuts. They want Democrats to be on board with these cuts. They want to be able to say that Democrats voted for this because these are very unpopular. The Republicans are taking heat in town halls all over the country when they hold them because people don't like these cuts. So they don't want to be blamed for it. They don't want to take responsibility for it. So at the end of the day, if someone tells you that the Democrats are responsible for this shutdown, tell them that's not true. Republicans could end at any time. They don't do that because they don't want to. That's the end of the story. This one's not foggy at all. The Republicans could end this thing right now, today, simply by ending the filibuster rule, and the shutdown ends. They could even pass a full budget if they wanted to, and all they have to do is end the filibuster. So the filibuster is the core problem that here. They don't want to end it. Don't know, and if they don't want to end it, it's because they don't really want to end the shutdown. So that's my take on this, on the shutdown, and who's responsible. You can find us at foggybottomline.com. We're on YouTube at Foggy Bottom Line Media, Insta and TikTok at Foggy Bottom Line. And you can support the podcast. There's a link on foggybottomline.com. And you can send it to Venmo at Foggy Bottom Line. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. It doesn't cost anything. It just puts that in a list of your subscriptions so you can get back to the next one more easily. And let us know what you think. Comment, share. We want feedback. We want to know how we're doing. We want to know if this is helpful for you. We want to be entertaining and informative, but we want to give you content that you find useful. So this is Stan Scott for Foggy Bottom Line Media signing off. We'll see you next week with the episode 10 of the podcast. Thanks. Have a great day.